Yo guys, what's going on? Welcome back to a brand new video here on the channel today. And following the success of last time talking about Manchester United, usually I keep all of my Manchester United talk over on TikTok. But I thought, you know what? The last video did so well. Let's continue to make them over on YouTube. And I want to talk about the result yesterday briefly, losing 2-0 to Newcastle at home, which, let's be honest, we probably all thought that was going to happen, at least the realist fans like myself. The big problem that I want to talk about today is Ineos and their key responsibility in turning things around. Now, when you look at yesterday's performance, it was poor. You know, there's not much else to really say about it. It was an absolute shit show. The players, they didn't look up to it. The second half was a bit better than the first half, but there's certain things that you really do have to question, and it doesn't just come from the team. I think it's the whole picture that needs to be assessed. I mean, why Xerxes was even considered starting yesterday. I mean, I know that the fans got some stick for booing him off the pitch, and then he went off on a strop down the tunnel, but you have to look at what he contributed yesterday, Xerxes. He plods around like Noddy, just doing absolutely nothing. He contributes nothing to the game. And that's where I have to sort of question the manager. I'm all for the rotations. And I get that he doesn't want to start Rashford and shouldn't be starting Rashford, given that Rashford has publicly announced that he wants to leave the club. And I get that Garnacho is probably not the best for the system, but surely having one of them on the pitch, Garnacho would be better than having Xerxes there. And he took him off after 33 minutes. And I don't think Xerxes was too happy about that. But, is it all Xerxes' fault? Well, no, it's not. Ineos sanctioned the deal for Ten Hag to sign him. Was it a Ten Hag signing? We don't know. Was it to Ashworth? We don't know. But we've spent almost £40 million on a player who was brought in to play a striker who's openly told people that he doesn't see himself as his striker. He's like this 6'3" plod along. He's walking back into the midfield. He doesn't make runs inside. He doesn't make any runs. He doesn't really do anything. And for me, it's time to part ways with him already. 6 months. If we've still got the receipt to Bologna, send him back on his way because... it's really, really painful watching him. But just the result yesterday, the same old problems, balls into the box, exploiting the weakness of having a 5'9" centre-back in Martinez. And, there was nobody really who had a good game yesterday. The midfield two are like a decade older than Newcastle's midfield two. Casemiro and Eriksen, no offence to the both, but they're well past their best. They got no legs. Casemiro can barely kick a football. Eriksen's slightly better, but really shouldn't be starting games. And it's all a bit of a mess. It's a big mess. The manager's come out and said, there's a possibility of facing relegation, and he's right. You can't come out and say that the manager's wrong and he should be more optimistic. Relegation is looming. We are pound for pound the worst team in the league. The amount of money that we have spent on these players that have now gone to absolute rubbish. But, I think I do hold Ineos the majority of the issues at the moment that have arisen, I'm going to blame Ineos for, and it all spans back to the FA Cup final. Ten Hag should have been gotten rid of at the end of the FA Cup final last year. But instead, they backed Ashworth, wanted to keep him in for another year, extended the contract for another year. You always knew that they weren't looking to keep him in long term. Otherwise, they would have given him a brand new deal. All they did was extend the current deal one more year. And I have a funny feeling, well, no, not a funny feeling, I'm pretty much almost certain they thought they could get away with another year of Ten Hag, playing with no style, no aggression. At least with previous successors, the players have been lazy, but the plan has always been stick everyone behind the ball and try and go for a counter-attack and be, the not be on the front foot and soak up the pressure, rely on David De Gea to make saves, and you'll be okay. unfortunately, that isn't the style anymore, and the manager wants to play more on the front foot and play more attacking and, a bit more creativity about it. And these players can't do it. They can't do it. And the problem now is that you backed Ten Hag, you gave Ten Hag another transfer window where you spent another 200 odd million pound on players that Ten Hag wanted. Ten Hag still had a veto over the transfers, so I've made my opinions clear before of that. I think Ten Hag needs to be investigated for financial crime with Ajax, because the amount of ex-Ajax players he signed are absolutely insane. And the money that we signed players for was even worse. I mean, this transfer window was probably one of the better for player values, but the two previous to that, it was shocking the amount of money we paid for these players. But the problem then stands is that you've started the season with Ten Hag, with these players who probably didn't really want to play for Ten Hag, but they've got to because it's their job. And we were very, very average. We were an average side. We were looking for a mid-table finish, and that was probably the best where it was going to be. But the reason why it didn't look so bad under Ten Hag as compared to it was now, Ten Hag didn't really have a system. He did 1 year of sitting back, doing nothing, playing on the counter-attack, which suited Rashford, which is why he had a good 3 or 4 months. And then he wanted to play Casemiro with Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes. Tried it 1 game against Lyon in pre-season. It didn't work, and he bottled it and abandoned the idea. Didn't want to know of it anymore. And then we've basically just kept the same style of football we have done for, under the previous 2 coaches, Rangnick and Oli. Even Jose Mourinho, really, sitting back behind the ball, playing on the counter, not playing on the front foot. And the players have got used to it. A lot of these players have been here for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And, they've got used to having no expectation from the manager, being able to be lazy, get away with it, not wanting to press. Those players weren't wanting to press yesterday. And the problem is now is that you've brought this new coach in, not even midway through the season, just a couple of months into the season. These players have been training in one way, and then all of a sudden they wake up and it's bosh. It's not a slightly different way of playing. It's a totally different way of playing that Amorim wants to play compared to Ten Hag, compared to Rangnick, compared to Oli, compared to Mourinho, because there's still some Mourinho players here as well. Compared to all of those coaches, Amorim is way more on the front foot, wants to play way more aggressive, high tempo, high energy. And the problem is these players either don't want to do it or can't do it. But you do have to have some sort of sympathy for some of the players, and I don't on a professional basis, because they suck. But just imagine this: if you were, I don't know, you were a workforce who made pencils, and every day for the last 3 or 4 years, you've gone into work and you've made pencils. And then you will go into work the next day, and the owner of the business is there, and they say, "Ladies and gentlemen, I've stopped the production of pencils. We're now going to be making tractors. None of you have any idea how to make tractors, but you've still got to do it because it's your job. And it's going to take you a long time to learn tractors, even the best of staff, let alone the staff that probably weren't good enough to be making pencils, but are there just to make up the numbers. There's going to be a big time where those tractors that are going to be getting made are going to be absolutely rubbish, or going to take you so long to develop one because you don't know how to make tractors. You were developing pencils. You're making pencils. It's the same with this. These players are used to being lazy, playing lazy, slow football, and then hit a long ball over the top to Rashford or Garnacho, and eventually it will score. They're not used to playing on the front foot. Some of them probably don't want to play on the front foot, but they don't have a choice because Ineos ballsed it up, bringing or keeping Ten Hag for another year. They should have either kept Ten Hag, or maybe not kept Ten Hag. You could have gotten rid of Ten Hag. You could have kept Ruud van Nistelrooy in until the end of the season, because we're already being told there's no money to invest in January, which don't always believe, because if you can get rid of Rashford and you can get rid of Garnacho and you could get rid of Xerxes, that's already about £100 million you've made. you could sign 3 or 4 players on, an installment plan basis. So, if it's all very well and good, the media coming out and saying Manchester United can only sell to buy. Well, good, because the players need to be moved on because they're no good enough for this manager. That's not to say that these players aren't talented. We know Rashford is a talented player. We know that Garnacho is a talented player. We know that players like Martinez and Bruno Fernandes are talented players, but unfortunately, I just don't see them fitting this system. But this is now where it's up to Ineos. It's not up to the manager to turn this around. You can't look at the manager and go, if we do face relegation, which, you hope doesn't happen because, as much as relegation may sort out getting rid of the players, the club would be in absolute turmoil. Sponsors would be gone. The deal with Adidas would be gone. The kit's been being made by a Hummel or something. The debt would only be increasing because you wouldn't be making any money. It's bad enough not being in Europe, which is not going to happen this year unless by some miracle we win the Europa League, which I don't think is going to happen. You can kiss European football goodbye. The challenge now for this season is survival. It's trying to survive in the Premier League and then try and rescue something in the summer. But this is up to Ineos. Amorim cannot sell players. He doesn't have the authority to go out and sell players. He doesn't have the authority to go out and buy players. He can tell Ineos what sort of player he wants and what players he'd like to sign, but it's up to them to sign them. And this is where Ineos and Jim Ratcliffe, all the time, where he's come out over the last year and said, it's a work in progress. You can't fix things this quickly. It's not going to be a quick fix, but it's up to him to get rid of the rubbish. We've seen 2 months now of these players are not good enough to fit this Amorim system. They don't work in this system. I've highlighted the issues that I think with Bruno Fernandes. I don't think Bruno Fernandes is quick enough to play in a wide 10, but I also don't think he's defensively good enough to play in the midfield too with Ugarte. So in that case, I think he would need to be moved on. But again, the problem is going to become that, players have been put on money that, that they shouldn't be on that sort of money. And this is again the problem with keeping Ten Hag. You've just gone and put Bruno Fernandes on a new contract on a load of money each week. How many clubs are going to be prepared to pay him that sort of money? You got Casemiro on 300 grand a week. The only place you're going to be able to offload him is to Saudi Arabia, but you're not going to get a huge sum of money back. That's going to be a big problem. The money that you're going to get back off a lot of these players probably isn't going to invest in a lot of the players that you need. So it's a big, big problem, and it's up to Ineos to sort it out. Jim Ratcliffe, he's been making a lot of cuts, and I think there will be more cuts to come. It's a big problem. You worry about futures of staff. You worry about the women's team, whether he's going to keep funding for that or whether he's going to say, fuck it, we're getting rid of the women's team again. You hope that doesn't happen, but you never know. It could. Financially, Manchester United clearly is in turmoil, and I think we need more investment. I'm sorry, I don't think the 20-odd% that Ratcliffe has invested is enough. You need someone to come in and take some stake in the company and start clearing off some of this debt. Whether it's someone who comes in and says, here's £1 billion, I want 15% of the company, and I'm going to wipe out all that debt. You put my money towards that debt, and off we go. I don't know. It's a big problem. It's a very big problem, and I'll be honest. I don't really see a light at the end of the tunnel at the moment. I generally worry about the relegation. We're 7 points from the drop at the moment, but we're playing like the worst team in the league. We have a spell of about 2 or 3 minutes where the football is good, and then 50 or 60 minutes where the football is just bang average or rubbish. And as soon as a team puts a ball in the box, it's finished. It's over. As soon as a cross comes in the box, we've got wing-backs who can't stop the cross coming in, and you've got a 5'9" centre-back who can't mark. He can't mark a player. He just gets out-pushed or out-jumped, and it's a massive problem. It is a massive problem, and pardon me, I can't see a way forward. I'm sorry. It's up to Ineos now. I can't see a way forward for the coach. I can't see a way forward for the players. There's not going to be any improvement from the players. So we're not going to suddenly, in a month's time, all these players are going to start adjusting to the system. They've had that adjustment period. All right, they might get slightly better, but they're not going to play to the way that Amorim wants them to play. He's limited by the squad. You know, as much as I'd love to say Xerxes goes in January, will he? If he does, it'll probably only be on loan. And the problem is with loaning a player is all very well and good. Okay, he's not playing for us anymore, but who is going to play now? You know, what is going to happen in January? It's a big unknown. It's a lot of unknowns, and I'm worried. I am worried. You know, it's getting to the point now where I don't want to watch the games. You know, it got to 2-0 yesterday, and my interest just went. It was gone. Xerxes was coming off, and we're bringing on all these Dross players. We're making all these defensive substitutions, and you know, you're losing the game when you're bringing on centre backs. That's when you know that your squad depth is just finished, and it's clear to see that Amorim has just got a squad full of players that he doesn't want. And the rumours that Amorim wanted to take the job in the summer are probably true, because that would have given him enough time in pre-season to assess the players that would have been working for him, get rid of them, and he would have been able to give a short list of players he wanted to work with straight away and get them in and start integrating. But now he's got to wait another 6 months. You know, question marks on whether any changes will be made to the squad in this January, whether it be outgoings only or whether there will be an incoming or two. Will they be permanent? Will they be loan? I don't know. Our usual trick is to loan some misfit in January and hope they can fill in. Usually a striker. The same with Igalo and the same with Vegas. Too doesn't really work, but you kind of have to have them because, well, there's nobody else available. And yeah, it's a big shame. It is a big shame. You know, you do sit and wonder, is Amorim the right coach right now? Well, no, I don't think he is, but he's here now at the moment. So we're going to have to see things through. But guys, I want you to let me know in the comment section down below, what did you think of the game yesterday? Can you see a way forward for Manchester United? You know, are you scared about relegation? Do you think we'll be okay? Do you think some of these players could turn it around? Or do you, like me, think that 90% of the squad probably need to be moved along on their way? That is going to be it for this one then, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. Drop us a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. I'm going to be trying to keep all my football-related rants on this channel now, along with the gameplays and the playthroughs. They're on a pause at the moment due to Christmas, but after New Year's out the way, we'll be back on the uploads and the streams. If you do want to watch anything live, the link to my Twitch is in the description down below, along with everything else. You've got my main handles underneath me as well. You're already here on YouTube. You've got the Twitter or the X, and you've got Instagram here as well. So thank you all very much for watching. I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.